So now, what was the moment? What you leave your career?
Yeah.
You know, guys go. John Elway goes into cars.
Right.
You go into wine. Why?
Well, John went into cars because he likes money. I went into wine but no, it was a passion that we developed while we were playing, and I knew that when I retired, I needed to be passionate about something. You know, you got to have something that drives you to get out of bed in the morning and go do something and make a productive impact on the world. And wine was something that fit that mold, and just pure dumb luck, my hometown had become one of the premier wine regions in the world. And so I was able to go back home and chase a passion.
Now, this is not a celebrity wine. Your hand's in the dirt. You made a point to me last night at dinner that this is a passion. You're a worker. Winemakers, to a large degree, are farmers.
Right.
That's really what it is. So, to you, what's it been like, the experience? It's almost like going back to the NFL. It's just the grind, the work.
It really truly is. It's just like starting over and being a rookie, and trying to learn but learn, when you're drafted, number one and you're installed immediately as your quarterback, you don't really get to just wait and watch and learn. You got to jump in and go. So that's what this has been like. Thankfully, I've got just a killer team around me and a guy that's taught me a lot. But it's been stressful, being a farmer. I didn't know that. They don't tell you that when you get in, that you're a farmer. And when you're a farmer, Mother Nature rules all. And if she decides not to bless you that year, you can have some struggles. So we've had some stressful years. Thankfully, every vintage since we've been in has come around and been very, very good. 11 that's out now was the most stressful. But yeah, it's an interesting learning process.
Compare a great win in sports to the minute you found out wine critics were saying this is an elite, world-class cab.
Very similar moments. Very similar moments. Now
you didn't spike the wine, but
I did not spike the wine, but in terms of a sense of accomplishment, yeah, they're very, very similar. They're both things that don't happen overnight. So you work your whole life to be an overnight success, right? And football, same way. You work. It's a body of work that you started when you're really young. With wine, it took us 7 years from when we started until we actually had something out there for people to try. So it's different. There's not really technically a scoreboard, but when you see that the critics like it and people buy it, then you get those little anecdotal things that are big.
Chris Figgins, for you, a winemaker, part of your team. Where did you find it? I mean, that's a big part of it's like finding a coordinator in football. You can only do so much without it.
I'm telling you right now, that was the biggest moment for us, was being able to hire my childhood friend and next door neighbor, Chris Figgins. We were next door neighbors, we're friends since we were little kids, but he truly became just this rock star winemaker.
Before you got into winemaking or during it?
No, before I got into it, his family started like the original iconic Walla Walla brand. His dad did, and then he took over making wine for his dad. But I tell people all the time, hiring Chris would be like starting an NFL franchise, and you have Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, one of those guys as your quarterback.
And he was your neighbor growing up.
And he was my neighbor growing up. So yeah, I mean, it's cool, man. And having that story really helped.
Are you the best former quarterback winemaker in America?
Absolutely.
I think you are. I think that's been.
I don't know. My buddy Rick Meyer is making some killer wine in Napa. There's some other guys there. I know Dick Vermeil makes pretty good wine. Rick and I have that little debate, and we're not going to say who's better, who's worse. But
do you have a personal cellar?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Give me a gem. Do you have some gems?
Honestly, for me, we make Cabernet, and I love what we do. I love Italian wine. A good, nicely aged Barolo. I got some Barolos down in my cellar from '98, and they're so good. But what happens when I go open those wines? It's not when I have my friends over. Or I'll have my friends over, and that bottle of wine will sit behind the planter, and then they'll drink the other stuff because I'm not sharing.
How many bottles in your cellar?
Oh, it depends on how thirsty we've been recently. It usually fluctuates from 1,500 to 2,500. Just kind of for a while there, we decided that we needed to stop buying and start consuming, and we're getting to create some more room. And thankfully, I do have some friends that like to help with that part. But yeah, it's somewhere in that range usually, somewhere plus or minus 2,000 malts.
Where do you go from here?
Where do we go from here? Great question. When you're running a winery like this, the natural inclination is to keep growing and keep growing and keep growing. And I've watched people do that, and eventually you take your fun hobby / job and turn it into this monster that becomes a real job, and that's not what I want to do. So we're done. We're 3,000 cases of double back. That's where we're going to stop. We've got a couple of fun little projects that'll just go out to our mailing list, but I'm not going to allow this thing to grow too big and become a real job. It's never been about turning it into this $100 million business. That's not what it was. It's a lifestyle choice. We do intend to make money at it at some point, but that's not been the goal behind the thing. So we're done. We're done growing. We're here. We love what we've got. We've got a great team, good wine, and we're just going to enjoy it.
Drew, what would make you prouder if somebody walked up and said, "It's one of the greatest cabs I've ever had," or "You're one of the greatest quarterbacks I've ever had"?
Well, this is what I'm doing now. So that's the short answer. What I'm doing now is more important to me than what I did in the past. I love the fact that I play football, and unless I land on the news, it's the coolest thing I'll ever do. Throwing a touchdown in an NFL stadium and winning the game pre-game, coolest thing I'll ever do. And I love it. But that's what I used to do. This is what I do now. So the best compliments now are about our current project. It's been a lot of fun.
Do people ever try to test you? Oh, he's a quarterback. He doesn't know why. When you go and speak in groups, do they test you?
It happened yesterday. We're working with our distributor here in Connecticut, and when you're the old, retired jock, they kind of figure it out the same way. What's this guy know about wine? He can't know anything. And so they will. So yesterday I got some questions about what types of soil are your vineyards in, and so I got to give them some geology lesson on that, which was good. And then what kind of oak you use and why are you doing that? They talk about varietal differences and all this stuff. So the good news is when they think you're done and you can show them you actually learned something, then you flip it on them and then they remember you forever.
Biggest fans ever.
And you go. Yeah, it's good.
This is great. Is it what you thought it would be, the winemaking process?
For the most part, it is. I anticipated it being a great education. I anticipated it being a lot of fun, but I also anticipated there would be some stress involved in it here and there, and there have been. The one thing they don't tell you is the fun, sexy part where you're a farmer and you're a winemaker and you travel and you wine and it's one of those fun things. But ultimately, it's too much paperwork. when you sit around and you got to do compliance, every state's different. You got to license this and sign that and give inventory here. It's all of that craziness. That's the part they don't really tell. The other thing they didn't know when I started getting into is that my state that I played most of my career in, Massachusetts, they won't let me sell any wine in my fancy show. I got to go through have to go through the source, which I'm sure you're probably on the other side of that one. Man, we want to be able to sell to people at least if you can follow this.
By the way, in Law and Order, they don't show the paperwork either.
Yeah, no.
They're always solving the case.
They're always solving the case instead of just sitting there.
Thanks again.
Well, hey, man, thanks. And congrats on your store, man. This is really cool. This is kind of got that right feel to it where somebody can come in. And wine's kind of mysterious to people sometimes. It can be intimidating. What you guys are doing here is taking some of that mystery out of it for people so people can feel comfortable buying all the wines.